The neighborhood had always looked like something out of a brochure. Perfectly trimmed hedges, driveways free of oil stains, lawns maintained with the precision of golf courses. The HOA board, led by Karen, a woman with an iron smile and a sharper tongue, kept it that way. To live here meant to accept her watchful eye, her rules, and her endless pursuit of control. But one house had become a thorn in her side, a modest story with a wide front yard that, until recently, had blended seamlessly with the others. That was before the gnomes appeared. At first, it was just one, a cheerful ceramic gnome with a fishing pole, resting near the mailbox. No one complained, not even Karen, though she made a mental note of it. But then another arrived, this one with a red cap, holding a lantern. Then another, grinning with a watering can. By the end of the month, there were 15 gnomes scattered across the lawn. Each posed differently. They looked harmless, whimsical even, to most neighbors. Children loved them, often pausing during walks to point and giggle. But to Karen, they were an infestation, a visual plague eating away at the uniformity she cherished. She began her campaign swiftly. Letters appeared in the homeowner's mailbox, first polite reminders about decorative limitations, then formal warnings citing specific rules about lawn ornaments exceeding community guidelines. Still, the gnome army grew. 20, 30, 40. Some sat on the porch. Others guarded the driveway. And a small cluster formed around a bird bath like soldiers in formation. The man who lived there didn't respond to her notes. He didn't attend board meetings or return calls. He simply kept adding gnomes, each one more elaborate than the last. One rode a turtle, another held binoculars, and yet another dangled from a tiny swing set he'd built just for it. Karen's patience snapped. She arrived one morning with two HOA board members in tow, striding across the lawn with her clipboard in hand. By that afternoon, a final notice was taped to the homeowner's door. Remove the gnomes or face escalating fines. The next week, the lawn was empty. Neighbors assumed the man had surrendered. The gnomes were gone, packed into boxes and hidden away. Karen celebrated quietly, convinced she had restored order. But she had underestimated him. Inside his garage, among the stacked boxes of defeated gnomes, the man was already plotting. And this was only the beginning. The house was quiet without the gnomes. But inside, the man's imagination roared louder than ever. Late at night, under the glow of a desk lamp, he filled pages with sketches. Towers with pointed turrets, arched windows, stone walls, a drawbridge. At first, they were doodles, born from frustration. But soon they sharpened into plans, blueprints for something greater. The HOA rules became his guide. He read every line, searching for loopholes, and found one. Decorations were limited in size and number. Permanent structures were capped at 10 feet. But there was no rule against building a decorative structure that reached that height. If gnomes were too small and unsightly, then he would build something grand and undeniable. A fortress. A castle. He began gathering supplies. Lumber stacked in his garage. Rolls of fox stone siding. Gallons of paint. The sound of saws and hammers filled the air. At first, neighbors assumed he was adding a shed or gazebo. But as the frame grew taller, they realized this was something else entirely. Karen noticed immediately. Each morning she drove past, her eyes narrowing at the rising beams. She scribbled in her notepad, filed noise complaints, and emailed the board demanding inspections. But every time officials visited, they found no violations. He had permits, paperwork, and measurements on his side. By the third week, the skeleton of a castle stood on his lawn. Wooden towers jutted upward. Stone panels transformed the frame into medieval walls. Painted banners hung from the turrets, flapping dramatically in the wind. Children cheered. Neighbors snapped photos. Social media caught fire. And Karen, she seethed. Powerless as the castle rose higher. The gnomes may have been gone, but their spirit had returned in stone and timber, and Karen was about to lose control of more than just a lawn. The castle was impossible to ignore. 10 feet tall, looming over hedges and rooftops. It dominated the street like a monument to defiance. By now, videos of it had gone viral online. People drove from other neighborhoods just to see it. Children played nights in the yard. And the homeowner became a quiet hero to those who disliked the HOA's grip. But Karen wasn't ready to admit defeat. She launched a full-scale counterattack. First came new complaints: visual blight, safety hazard, disturbance of community harmony, none stuck. The castle met every rule. Then she tried intimidation. Standing at the edge of the lawn with arms crossed, glaring up at the towers as if her stare alone could topple them. The man never engaged, never spoke. He simply maintained his fortress. When that failed, she rallied her allies. At board meetings, she painted the castle as a threat to property values, insisting that potential buyers would be turned away by such nonsense. A few homeowners nodded, but most shrugged. Property values hadn't dropped, if anything. Curiosity about the castle had made the neighborhood more desirable. Desperate, Karen escalated. She hired an inspector, hoping to catch the man in a code violation. But the inspector found nothing wrong. She wrote to city officials. But again, no rules had been broken. The man had played the system perfectly. Her obsession became obvious. She spent hours each day photographing the castle, searching for cracks or faults. Neighbors whispered about her fixation, some even laughing at her antics. For the first time, Karen's authority wavered. She wasn't feared. She was ridiculed. And that humiliation only fueled her next move. Karen wasn't just fighting a castle anymore. She was fighting for control of the neighborhood itself. While Karen fumed, the man expanded his project. He didn't just stop at walls and turrets. He added details: small flags, fox vines climbing the sides, even LED lights that made the castle glow at night. Children squealed when the towers lit up, casting shadows like a fairy tale fortress. Soon, the lawn became a community hub. Neighbors brought their kids to play, posed for photos, and even held small gatherings around the castle. It wasn't just decoration anymore. It was an attraction. The man never sought fame, but fame found him. Local news crews filmed segments. Social media influencers tagged the castle in videos. The story of the band Gnomes turned castle spread far and wide. What began as quiet revenge had become a cultural moment. For Karen, it was unbearable. She watched as her neighborhood slipped away, transformed into something she couldn't control. The HOA board grew tired of her endless complaints. Some members even admired the man's creativity. Every victory for him was a defeat for her. And she couldn't stand it. Her breaking point came when she saw children in paper crowns laughing at the gates of the castle. It wasn't just a lawn ornament anymore. It was a kingdom. And she was the villain in its story. Karen launched her final attack. She called an emergency HOA meeting, demanding the castle be dismantled. Her speech was fiery, full of warnings about chaos and ruined community standards, but this time, no one clapped. No one nodded. Instead, neighbors spoke up, parents talking about how much joy the castle brought, others admitting it boosted community spirit. Even board members rolled their eyes at Karen's intensity. Defeated, she tried one last card, a lawsuit, but the case crumbled quickly in court. The man's castle was fully legal. The judge dismissed the claim without hesitation. Karen's reputation collapsed with it. She became the neighborhood punchline, the cautionary tale of what happens when control becomes obsession. The man never gloated. He never rubbed his victory in her face. He simply stood quietly by his fortress, letting the castle speak for itself. And by then, it spoke louder than anything Karen could say. Karen launched her final attack. She called an emergency HOA meeting, demanding the castle be dismantled. Her speech was fiery, full of warnings about chaos and ruined community standards, but this time, no one clapped. No one nodded. Instead, neighbors spoke up, parents talking about how much joy the castle brought, others admitting it boosted community spirit. Even board members rolled their eyes at Karen's intensity. Defeated, she tried one last card, a lawsuit, but the case crumbled quickly in court. The man's castle was fully legal. The judge dismissed the claim without hesitation. Karen's reputation collapsed with it. She became the neighborhood punchline, the cautionary tale of what happens when control becomes obsession. The man never gloated. He never rubbed his victory in her face. He simply stood quietly by his fortress, letting the castle speak for itself. And by then, it spoke louder than anything Karen could say.